So Undead Paladins and Blood Elven Druids, as crazy as they sound, may actually become a reality in the very near future, as we got a really interesting interview from Blizzard for Midnight. As the Void Elves are confirmed to get Demon Hunters, Blizzard talked about the faction disbalance and how the Horde can look forward to new race class combos in Midnight itself. For the Forsaken Paladins, we actually have a bunch of very suspicious datamined information from only a few months back, from new models, new questlines, and the entire story is for Midnight about the light and the void. Blood Elf Druids sound even crazier, but with the new tree we saw in Eversong and the haranir zones and all this world tree lore stuff, something big could be happening as well. So let's look at all the new evidence we currently have and what is going on. If you wanted anything Warcraft related, Gamivo has the best deals on the market that you can get with my link below. You can get almost every other game software, and they also just added mobile top-ups for all your favorite mobile games with the craziest prices. You can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so click my link and get the best deals at Gamivo. By this point, you probably heard about Blizzard releasing the race class combos and making it more and more available. Actually, like a few years back, they went really hard at this and they promised to eventually get rid of all the race class restrictions, but it does sound like they kind of winded down a little bit on that, like hard this past year or two, but nonetheless, it is still happening, but at a much slower pace. Now, one of the big announcements for Midnight was that the Void Elves will be getting Demon Hunters, and while the new Void spec, this actually makes complete sense, it does actually create a little bit of a disbalance as it's only the Alliance getting this, and to respond to that, Blizzard Dev actually talked about it and gave us some very interesting foreshadowing and hints. He said, for the Horde players in the audience, you will notice that the Void Elf Demon Hunters introduce a little bit of an imbalance. The Void Elves are ready to jump into a new particular class, and this lore is appropriate for what we are doing this time. The saga, however, is not over yet, and there will be new opportunities for other race class combinations that make sense with the story as we tell it, so keep your eyes peeled. This got the community really speculating on what could be going on, and we started combining that with other hints. One of the possibilities people have been talking about is actually opening up the Demon Hunters to more races, as previously it wouldn't have really made any sense. These were just elves that followed Illidan, they had a particular storyline, why they became Demon Hunters, but with this new Void spec and like new abilities to create new Demon Hunters, at this point, with the Void Hunters, I mean, it could make sense for other races to become this class as well. However, honestly, this does seem a little bit unlikely. The dev was saying that there will be new opportunities for the saga down the line for other race class combos. Keep in mind, combos, not combo, specifically for the Horde, which honestly didn't hint at it like Demon Hunters are getting expanded upon, but that other classes will be available for the Horde races, and that got the community to talk about the two really big speculations that we've had for years now, and that is the Forsaken Paladin and the Blood Elf Druid. So, the Blood Elf Druid really on first glance sounds quite weird. I mean, it seems like it just doesn't fit. Blood Elves are these magic users, very developed with crazy architecture. They just don't seem like the type to care about the forests and to live in the woods, but that might not even be the case anymore with how the lore has been going on. Back in the day, I mean, Blood Elf Paladins were completely unheard of, yet it happened. However, if you watch the Midnight reveal, you might have noticed that they restored a big part of Quel'Thalas and what was destroyed in the past, and there appears to be a new big tree in Eversong that could be related to another world tree type. The new Night Elf capital was actually built right off the coast of Quel'Thalas, very close, and we are getting an elven reunion that will be happening throughout the saga itself, not just in Midnight. Furthermore, the Haranir are a new race and they are in this new zone that is apparently where all the world trees on Azeroth meet. Furthermore, the speculation about them is that they are the in between the trolls and the elves before they evolve. So Blood Elves, honestly, with all this destruction, restoring from the Void invasion and the Scourge destruction, could somehow turn to Druidism and caring about their own nature. Honestly, at this point and with recent development, it wouldn't really be unheard of. I'm thinking something akin to like botanists, like a mix between a druid and a mage. Race-specific classes don't necessarily have to be cookie-cutter ones, just like how the Tauren are paladins, but they're not exactly the same as human paladins. They're more like sun druids. In a way, I think a Blood Elf druids could be like these botanists with very delicate and elf related animal forms, and it could turn out to be very interesting. On the other hand, what I really do think they may be referring to in this interview, and keep in mind that they've kind of mentioned multiple race class combos, they didn't say we are getting one for the Horde. I think Forsaken Paladins are extremely likely, and this might be the most likely thing that they have been talking about. The reason for this is because we actually have some very recent evidence. I actually made a video on this just a few months back when the evidence came out. First, we got a brand new character in Classic that is apparently a Forsaken Paladin that built an order in Undercity. This never actually happened before. Second, we datamined a few really interesting models, specifically an undead horse, but a light undead horse, like a light infused one, which is something we had never seen before. Other than this, in the war within, we got the Arati light users having their own undead, which is yet another development on this light and undead mix. However, the biggest thing is that the Forsaken Paladins actually make complete sense. I mean, they've had undead priests pretty much since forever. Paladins are really not different from priests. Initially, this in itself made zero sense because, as you may remember from like Warcraft 3, we know the light specifically hurts the undead. It's like their kryptonite. And the initial clarification was that the priest class is only there because of the shadow spec, but that kind of started changing over the years, and we saw more and more holy undead priests. Literally, if they can be light priests, nothing is stopping them from being paladins as well, especially since so many former human paladins became undead. Another big bit of evidence is the setting of Midnight, which involves the return of Savannas, as was recently confirmed, and very likely Forsaken relevance in some of the patches down the line as they border Quel'Thalas. The biggest thing is, though, the entire premise of Midnight is the light versus void battle, the return of the army of the light, and us learning more about the light. They even recently told us that we will even see the bad sides of the light as well in this expansion, so obviously something is going on with the light as a cosmological force, so this setting in itself could be a big opportunity to bring in the Forsaken Paladins. Paladins as a class are also going to be like one of the main ones, as in the cinematic itself we had Paladins and they introduced like those Paladins being summoned through the Sunwell. The Forsaken are also recently started embracing a new identity, no longer being these edgy rebels and living hidden from the world. Furthermore, back in Dragonflight, if you may remember with the tier questline, there was a big development with the new Paladin order that may not entirely be light oriented, which many of us saw as the ticket to bring it to all the races, but it never really happened. Other than this, some people speculate that Nightborn could be getting Demon Hunters, but I don't think this is the case, because they probably would have announced this together with the Void Elves as like a mirror race for the factions, but there is a possibility that this entire talk may have been referencing the expansion of the Demon Hunter races, like something akin to an Orc Demon Hunter, which would actually look really cool, but I do think it is kinda unlikely with the current plot. However, what we do know for certain is that we will get at least 2 more race class combos for the Horde, very likely multiple ones, and while it could be something entirely different, so far there is a lot of evidence for Undead Paladins coming to the game, as well as potentially Blood Elven Druids, as they are, after all, the main race of this expansion. Honestly, these two are kind of the ones that have the most evidence and the most probability at the moment. Thank you for watching. Check out how Silver Moon will be 2/3 neutral, so Alliance will be able to join by clicking on the screen, and also check out my video on the Roman Empire that I've actually recorded live on site in Malta by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!